In today's video, I'll talk about 5 scenarios where I believe it's worthwhile changing your mind going into a behavioral interview. And I'm going to start chronologically from the moment you start writing down your stories all the way to the actual interview itself. I'm going to present here 5 scenarios. The first scenario you want to take into account is when you start writing down those stories. You should actually write down your stories, keeping in mind that that will be far away from the last version of your story most of the time. I'm not only talking here about the words you'll choose, because obviously the words you choose on paper will differ from the words you'll use in communication, but also the structure of your story. You'll notice that, for example, less templated stories, less templated presentations of those stories will probably even be better for you. So don't expect that story to be final. Change your mind on how you present the story as you go through the preparation process. Number 2, your plan to prepare for a job interview. For example, if you have your upcoming on-site interview or virtual on-site interview coming up in 2 weeks, and you say, hey, I'm going to spend 1 week on the theory and 1 week on the practice. But if you spend 2 days on the theory and you realize that you have no reference point, you have no idea how good your story actually are, you could actually change your plan and start role-playing with someone, or start telling those stories in the mirror. It's the classic, project management dilemma between the waterfall versus the agile approach. So don't shy away from iterating faster to self-assess and to see how well that works for you. Number 3 here, some stories might seem inappropriate to talk about at the time you write them down, simply because you're not good enough with behavioral interviewing, or you're slightly biased, you're slightly shy to talk about, I don't know, some of your failures or some story that you don't feel comfortable talking about. But as you evolve, as you improve your performance, as you improve your communication skills, you will realize that these stories you can actually turn them into gold by emphasizing, for example, if you have a failure that you cannot talk about in the beginning, but then you believe you can communicate it to your advantage. That's one of the best, most powerful methods to emphasize your qualities through drama, through through these types of stories. So never say never to a story. Just, if you find it's inappropriate, put it aside, and then probably you'll reconsider it later, or even during the job interview, if you at all feel like you desperately need to ramp up your performance to have any chance to get the job. But this was number 3. Number 4, when you role play with someone, or when you practice with a coach, for example, don't overthink the importance of that coach. That coach, after all, is someone supposed to help you to do better with your performance. And it's actually a lot more common than you think that candidates prefer to choose multiple people that they role play with, not just one. Because as with any interview, if there's a lack of chemistry between the interviewer and interviewee, chances are the interview will not be the best one. Same thing when you role play with someone. I have a free roleplay service if you want to try it out. But as a general idea, don't believe that one person, and taking feedback from only one person, even if that is a certified professional, whatever coach, don't believe that it's final. So if you have the slightest doubt about these things, change your mind, have a go with someone else, and you'll be much better off. And I'm telling you here from experience. And last but not least, during the actual interview, it's possible that halfway through your answer, you realize that it's not your best answer. It's not the best story that you want to talk about. Or even worse, you realize it's a bad example. It's not to your advantage. Don't try to fake it until you make it. Don't try to finish up that answer by any means. Stop, tell them you've done a mistake, or you have a considerably better story, an amazing story that you would want to talk about. And basically use your best story, use your best example, or the right one in the case it was the wrong one. The maximum that can happen is that they will get a bit, they will not particularly enjoy this, simply because they took notes of half of your first story, and they will have to scrap those notes and take the newer notes from you. But the last impression is going to be that of your best story. And this is what matters the most. So this would be the 5 scenarios I want to talk about where it's worthwhile changing your mind a lot in going into a behavioral interview.